Hey everybody, Sinus here. Welcome back to another Monster Train speedrunning video. In this one I'm going to show off and commentate over two runs I did with this new speedrun strat you're about to see. It uses the Awoken and Melting Remnant and is primarily based around Bramble Lash. Before I do that though, I've got a bit of shameless plugging to do. Never Nathaniel and I will be doing a discussion on his Twitch channel, twitch.tv/never_Nathaniel. About 2 hours after this goes live. So let's get into things. You've seen I'm already resetting for Bramble Lash, and then I've got my Spike Sentient, and I need a Seraph that isn't Chase. Temperate is by far preferable. So this strategy revolves around, like most strategies of this kind, the use of a holdover card, that being, in this case, the obvious Bramble Lash. It's one of Awoken's best, and honestly only, ways to deal with big frontline units like Gilded Wings and Steel Wings. And so it's the card of choice for this particular run, because that's one of the Awoken's biggest shortcomings. It's a good way to pop bosses with high health as well. Since Awoken's kit tends to revolve around defensive abilities, it's important to get an offensive card that is proactive and much faster as a result, because you don't have to wait for example, a bunch of regen ticks to go off to kill the boss. Although, as you'll see, this speedrun isn't quite immune from that either. So I've got my Bramble Lash reduced to 1 cost and a holdover. And in the first ring, each Bramble Lash does 100 damage, which is pretty solid, although it has the notable disadvantage of being limited by which floor the Sentient is on. I can only use Bramble Lash to any effect on, in this case, the first floor. And that's not ideal, certainly, but it's the best thing Awoken's got. And I chose Melting Remnant for the second class in this speedrun for a variety of reasons. The main one is that Remnant has dregs, which are relatively handy compared to other cards of the other starter cards of the other clans in this speedrun, because not only are they units, they're also free, and those are both huge advantages in terms of energy management and card management. They're units, so they consume out of the deck as soon as you play them, and they're free, so you can play your Bramble Lashes and other cards without having to worry about those getting in the way. Not sure why I took this Concealed Caverns, but maybe it was worth a shot, I don't know. So now I've just duplicated my Bramble Lash, and here comes Daedalus. This is kind of where the Bramble Lash run makes or breaks itself. I've got to kill most of the enemies so that Sentient isn't on low health come Daedalus, and I also have the obligation to get a little bit of regen, just so he can, or Sentient's a she. She can live through the Relentless phase. And if I get the combination of those two things, the run is much safer than it would otherwise be. You may still be able to live on like minimal higher health, but it's slow, it's not very effective, it's just not worth it. So you can see here I'm setting the Sentient up on the 3rd floor, which is obviously very slow, but it's also necessary to get the combination of regen and Bramble Lash that's necessary to kill Daedalus and Relentless. Again, Bramble Lash does 100 damage, but it's only to the first target on the floor. So it's very hard to actually get one on Daedalus before Relentless. I have to rely on the Sentient spikes and regen to kill during the Relentless phase. And I believe I will do that successfully, or at least close enough here. Pulling out my units just because, I guess. And I hit 2 Bramble Lashes, and then add a point of regen, and Daedalus just barely lives, but it's close enough that the Pyre can easily finish the job. Now here's where this particular run takes off, because I get Spreading Spores. Spreading Spores serve a pretty obvious purpose in this run, really. Also, the perfect amount of Pyre health right there. Soon to be ruined by this Pyre remains. But Spreading Spores, especially when they're double stacked and cost reduced as they are here, are a great card for this run. Not only do they increase the spikes, which means increase the damage on Bramble Lash, they also apply regen, which helps out against the bosses. And for this run, I am purging as much as possible, which is unusual for one of these speedruns. In the Inferno run and in the Sketches run, no purging is taken, but it's important especially to draw the Bramble Lashes quickly. Otherwise, the big frontline enemies have a much easier time getting to the top, which is slow and damages your pyre. Neither of those are good things, obviously. Now, Melting Remnant is also nice because the dregs do just serve a useful purpose, in that they can clear things like healer enemies that the Sentient doesn't otherwise have the capability to. There's another reason, too, which is that in the endgame for speedrunning is going to be a 5-clan speedrun where we use each clan once as the primary clan and once as the ally clan, and this was the best place for Remnant to go. Ally clan doesn't make a huge difference, but Remnant's far from bad here, because it reduces the effective deck size, which is excellent. So here I'm prioritizing the removal over all else. I'm getting rid of these purifying cleanses. Those, again, I choose over the dregs because I can easily get rid of the dregs, whereas that's not the case for the purifying cleanses. So the rest of this run is simple in terms of concept, and that it's just play Sentient, spam your Bramble Lashes, and use Spreading Spores and other sources of regen to keep Sentient alive for the boss fight. Also, I would really like to complain that this Clipped Guardian is in the back, because I have no way of killing him with the tools available to me. So he's going to deal 26 damage to the pyre, no matter what I do. And that's, thankfully, one of the only times this happens in the run, but it's a major weakness of this particular strategy. Because this fight actually isn't even the worst one for it. Fight 4, I think, has one of the options with a bunch of overcharged tanks, and those things are brutal. But here, even though the Harpy gets Sycophant boosted, there's no chance. Multi-strike enemies against spikes are generally a good deal for you, and not for them. Here I go for a duplicate on the Bramble Lash for what are pretty much self-explanatory reasons. I'm once again at the correct amount of pyre health going into Fel. So I've got a very lucky seed here, because of the Spreading Spores and Wildwood Sap and other ways that the regen and spikes are available to me, and also because that this seed isn't either Chaste or Diligent. Diligent is annoying just because it clogs up your deck, and Chaste is annoying because it gets rid of your spikes, which makes your Bramble Lashes eventually too weak to do anything. There's no way to really keep a quote-unquote dummy floor because Seraph's ads will just clean house, basically. You can see that these Bramble Lashes are at 240 damage, which is 40 higher than they would otherwise be. Spreading Spores makes up the difference. And also there are 3 of them, and they play very quickly. This is like the optimal scenario for this run. Just spam play them out as fast as you can, along with other cards. And Fel gets chunked down and dies to a couple Bramble Lashes. That's pretty good. Now, Cycle of Life wasn't actually necessary here, although I did gold it as a result of this run, so I shouldn't complain too much. And I also took Draw, which was a mistake. I'm going to do a seeded run of this seed right afterwards, so you can see how I optimize this strategy. I frankly do not have this one down yet at all. I don't know exactly what pieces I'm looking for, and exactly how to upgrade them, as you'll see by the fact that I got a 2-cost holdover Cycle of Life, which I cannot play at the same time as all 3 of my Bramble Lashes. Also, bad muscle memory is a common thread in the speedrun. I obviously should not have skipped the most important upgrade of the entire run there, but my muscle memory wants me to skip all champion upgrades from the Inferno and Sketches runs that I've done on this channel earlier. You can see how much of an inconvenience Cycle of Life is, because now I'm not going to get my holdover Bramble Lashes back, and the Pyre Wings is going to get a stack of Ember Drain on me, and it's just not a good scenario. As it is, it's not that bad, but it's definitely something I will optimize in the seeded run. The nice thing about this run, though, is minor bosses die very quickly. You can see Nephil comes alone, and it's not even Nephil, it's Living Armor, who has an even bigger health pool. And it still just perishes. Now here comes Fight 9. It's not like the Sketches or Inferno runs where Seraph dies at a warp speed. This run is pretty dang slow on flying bosses, and honestly that's its weakest point. Because you can only play stuff on the same floor as the Sentient, you can't clear enemies before they come up there. And that means on the turns when Seraph is on that particular floor, you'll be hard-pressed to actually be able to get to him with your spells. That's especially true in Temperate, because there are lots of small enemies, but Temperate is also the least bad for very obvious reasons, considering the other two. So it's more just a matter of spamming Bramble Lash to get around all the big Gilded Wings and what have you, and then letting your spikes and regen carry the day when it comes time for Relentless. It's pretty slow, obviously, considering the just how many swings Seraph is going to have to take. But it's the best Awoken can do, and it's still not that bad. The Unseeded time is, well, you'll see it coming up. But it's not too horrible. You can note my hesitation there if you want. Seraph swings away. I'm checking the time in the middle of Relentless because it doesn't slow it down at all. And I believe I get something like an 11:31. I don't even check the time. I'm not sure why I didn't check the time. But it's easy to extrapolate because the ending cutscene takes 8 seconds. And now here's the same scene again. Improved Firebox, Bristling Sentient. And I should not have looked at this trial, but my memory wasn't good enough to remember what it was. That's fine though, not the end of the world. Now you may remember that my Sentient actually died turn 2 in the last run. That is something I can fix here, I believe. Yeah, I jump blocked with the train steward to achieve that. And then again, Sentient normally dies here. I think it still does, just because I can't get past the clergyman with Bramble Lash. But I get slightly better results. And I'm also able to play out this train steward so that the I forget what this guy's name is, Mustache Man. So that Mustache Man only gets to deal 4 hits to the pyre, which is not the end of the world. The actual time save I'm thinking of, I believe, is going to come in this next fight. Same thing here, 1 cost, hold over Bramble Lash. Also make it Razor Sharp Edge free, and then I think I'm also going to purge a card here, which I believe was the right move, because it gave me a better draw for this coming fight. So here come the Disciple Conduits. Again, this fight's a little dangerous if you're setting up first floor. The first floor is also just faster. Here I'm able to Razor Sharp Edge. I believe I Razor Sharp... Yep, I do. Razor Sharp Edge the Collector. Razor Sharp Edge is a very nice card for this run, because it makes early Relentless fights a bit easier by Razor Sharp Edging Sentient, and also offers excellent early game spot removal on any enemy with max HP of 1 or 2. Those are very handy things. The rest of the run is the same as the Unseeded run, although my movement is crisper just because I know where everything is. No need to take that Caverns, it wasn't anything useful. Now, here's Daedalus, once again. I think I actually get a worse outcome because I didn't remember exactly what I did. But it's, again, not worse by much. Completely tolerable. Particularly because on non-flying bosses, you are very unlikely to take much fire damage. Except to that specific clipped Guardian in the Sycophants fight. If you've played that fight more than like once or twice, you probably know what I'm talking about. I think he's annoying for every run. And this speedrun is no exception. Again, playing out units here to make sure my important cards come around faster. That's not as necessary here because I don't have a main source of regen yet other than my Wildwood Sap, which has Consume. It's still not that slow, so I do think it's worth it. But it's not objectively correct or anything like that. Again, I'm not quite going to be able to kill Daedalus here. But only 3 hits. Again, not the end of the world. Other than that, I don't end up at 69 pyre health this time. That is the end of the world. Of course, I saved so much pyre damage on not dying like an idiot to the second floor boss that it's still a net savings, and I have 103 after the pyre remains. Remove Consume and drop cost on the Wildwood Sap once again. Then take another Purge. Again, I'm getting rid of the Purifying Cleanses here because they stay in your deck, whereas Dregs and Train Stewards don't do that. I think it was actually worth it to take Seal of Aggression here, because it would get more damage on just random stuff. It's not like the Sentient really needs to worry about dying in this fight. It takes minimal damage, if any, after I get the Bramble Lashes especially. So I just keep throwing out the Bramble Lashes, and then Firelight Harvester is already dead. I like how the Train Steward is just on top of the Sentient during that animation. Alright, same thing here. Take the coins, remove the cards. Just cutting the Dreg and the last Purifying Cleanse. Probably should cut Train Stewards, but they're a bit slower to remove because you have to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the deck. I learned from Never Nathaniel that cards are alphabetized in that particular interface. So Bramble Lash is at the top of the stack, which makes it lovely for upgrading. But Train Stewards are at the bottom, so they are substantially less lovely for removal. Again, here's that one clipped Guardian. I get a little more damage on him this time because of my Razor Sharp Edge, but still not enough to make a difference. He'll still deliver 2 hits. Again, in most speedruns you don't want to take fire damage very often. This one's no exception. So as long as I'm doing everything right, which I believe in this run I am, I don't need to worry too hard about my fire getting killed. Now here I actually land a Bramble Lash on the Harpy, which I don't believe I was able to do last time. That's an advantage of purging the Purifying Cleanses specifically, as I was able to redraw that. Again, heal the fire, dupe the Bramble Lash, right at the top of the pile. Not sure what I scrolled for. And it's simple enough from here, really. I don't think much changes other than me not taking the Cycle of Life and also taking energy instead of draw. Those are both advantages over the Unseeded run. But hindsight is 20/20, and you can kind of expect a seeded run to save a minute or so off its unseeded counterpart, which is exactly what this one does. It comes in with a time of, I believe, 10:24. This is a Bramble Lash I wasn't able to get last time on Fell, I believe. Again, that's an advantage of purging, letting me draw the cards I want earlier. And since money at the end of the run is no object, it's no worries whatsoever to purge to my heart's content. Now here's the final wave, and rather than having to fight it out, Fel just dies. Well, I think she did that in the previous run too. So I consider it and I skip and I take energy. Both of these I think were good decisions. Story is pretty similar here, just purge out a couple of train stewards. It might be worth purging restores, and I think I'm actually going to do a little bit of that in a second here, because restores would kind of bog you down compared to the better regen cards like Wildwood Sap and, you know, the other one, Spreading Spores. Can you tell I don't script these? I sure can. Alright, here's Fight 8. That's Fight 7. Really don't script these. I always expect Seraph to be Fight 9. And I remember this one as the fight before Seraph. This is Fight 7, because Seraph is Fight 8. But it's much the same as in the previous run, other than earlier Bramble Lashes mean I don't have to worry about much of anything in this fight, where previously I got hit with Ember Drain and had to leak something. And that's just a simple matter of play the whole hand. Moving Armor is as dead as he was last time. I consider whether to go for dupe or remove. I think the decision to remove was the right one, because I'm already have a bit of energy woes. That was a mistake, though. This was my very first seeded run. I did it right after the Unseeded. That both has the advantage of keeping my memory fresh, and the disadvantage of me not being able to rectify every mistake on the first try. But here's Temperate. This time I'm choosing to set up on the first floor to avoid enemy movement animations. I think that's worth it, just because there's not really an advantage to setting up on the second or third floor like I did in the previous run. Seraph just keeps spawning. And you also have to wait one less phase of Relentless. So it seems just like a pure time save to me. And already here's Relentless. Seraph's definitely dying, but it's worth playing all of these out. And boom. $10:21 is the time, which saves a minute and 10 seconds off the unseeded counterpart of this run. Overall, pretty good. I'm happy with this, like, basically a proof of concept of the Awoken speedrun. So if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe, and if you're interested in more speedrun stuff, come to the discussion tonight after the uploading of this video. If you didn't enjoy the video, please do comment, letting me know what I can and should improve. And as always, have a good one.